Right, hello and welcome. So in this video we're going to be seeing how we can use a range of recycled materials and create art supplies. And the prompt or challenge for today is to develop the habit of seeing the things that you would maybe recycle ordinarily and see again, yes, how we can use them. So we're going to be looking at that today, and in a separate video you're going to see how I created these cards, this particular one, these two, and let me just move this out of the way, and here are another two that I've created. But essentially you're going to see how I've used recycled materials and some of the supplies that I had to create these two cards. And the other thing you're going to be able to see is how this page developed. So I've got this page here as well, and what I'm finally going to do once everything's finished, and that's something that you can do, you can prepare a page to hold your card. So for this exercise you don't have to do it on cards. I've just got a series of blank greetings cards that I was going to make cards, but I didn't, and so I've been splitting them in two and using them as smaller pieces of art that I can put in my journal. So this is a way essentially that you can put the cards that you make into your journal. You can create a page and it fits with this because I've used the same paper. And then back to the image, I love creating images, and so you'll see in a separate video how I took a page that started off like this with paper, how I took the page and I developed it even further. So in this video what we're going to do is look at the tools and supplies we can find and recycle and create into supplies that we can use in our art journal. Okay. So first of all we'll look at the supplies. Okay, so you may have tissue paper. So it comes as a 3-ply, so it means it has 3 layers. It has the main image that you will see. It has a layer which is the middle layer with a ghost of an image. And you see it very kind of faintly. And then it has the last layer which is just plain. So I like using the first and the second layer on my journals, and that's evident on this piece. We've got the first layer, and then we've got the ghost image which is the second layer on my art journal. So even looking at the art journal, my art journal is a recycled prospectus, and I've just either added collage on the page or I've used gesso on the page. So that's one of the things that you can do. You can, as you're looking and thinking, I wonder what I can do with this, I wonder if I can create an art journal with this, or I wonder if I can create an art supply, what if I did? Then that's exactly what I did and created. I created it, and it's nearly full, and I really love it. It's the size that I really like, and I like how it's turned out. Okay, so let's get back to some of the supplies, and I'm going to be using this page to test them out. After you've seen all the supplies, I'll show you what they look like. Okay, so show you what they look like on the page. I'm so excited. So this is a simple one. This is just a lid, and I use it as a palette. and then I use acrylic, so every now and again you can then peel off the paint and it's all nice and clean. Okay, so first off we have some stencils. Okay, and I've just done this one. So this is just, you can use either card or scrap card, whatever you've got, and you can create stencils. And then after they've finished, after you've finished using them, because they may be flimsy, like this particular one, again, you can then take your journal and you can use the papers, the stencils that you've created, and use them as you know, collage material. Okay, so with a punch, if you've got a punch, you punch out the shapes, so you can use this as a stencil, but then you can also use this as a mask, so you can put it down on the page and take a spray, you know, distress spray or whatever it inks, and you can create a image using these. So you use it as a mask. Okay, so we've got things like doilies as well we can use if you happen to have doilies, or you can get them in the thrift store. You know, you may have doilies sitting around in your art supply, and these are usually, you know, you put them, you know, what we use doilies for, you know, put a cup on it or whatever, a plate. I've got this as well. This was a it's for cupcakes, and it goes around the cupcakes and creates a, you know, a nice finished piece for the cupcake, nice finished look. But I liked the design on here, and so I use this as a stencil, and you would have seen in the journal how I used it. In the end, once it had been all used up and stamped on, I used it as a crown. Okay, so we've got that. We've got these foam pads, and these foam pads are things that you put under furniture, but it actually has a really nice pattern on there, so that makes a nice stamp. And all I've done is put it on foam board. I've got a selection of foam boards that I've used over time, and these are the bits that are left, so I keep them just in case I want to make a small size stamp. Okay, so we have these foam pads, and they're essentially used for card making, and I've got a variety of different sizes that I've used, but they make nice little stamps as well, and or mark making. If you're thinking, oh, I don't know what to do in terms of, I want to do some marks on in my journal, but I don't know what marks to do, you can create these little stamps, and then they could be the marks that you create. We've got sequin waste. I mean, you buy the sequin waste, or you can get it, you know, cheap somewhere. I've got stars and I've got hearts. Comes in a roll, but again, if you don't have it, I mean, these bits have lasted forever. I've had these rolls forever, and I think you could get like a roll of 4. Anyway, so we've got sequin waste. We've got a card that I use. I use this to smear on the paint or the gesso, and it creates a nice thin layer on the surface, and it dries fairly quickly. So we've got that. We've got tea lights. I take the wick and stuff out of the tea light, and I've created a stamp. It's fairly thin, but you get I've embossed an image on it, and it makes a nice little stamp. So it's just the base of the tea light. The tea light is a very thin metal material, and so it makes you can make some nice marks in them. And I might need to redo this again over time, because as I'm pressing down you're going to lose the image. Okay, let's move on. So here are the tabs. My tabs, adhesive tabs, lost their stickiness, so I had to adhere them with a glue gun, but I get a really nice effect with them, and I can do any shape I wanted to, you know, and create a nice stamp. Okay, we have some lids here that I've used. So for this one, this is like one of those damp rid packs. It's got the crystals at the bottom and it collects the water in the atmosphere. And all I did was cut around the lid. This one is a bit thick, so I've just left it as is, but it gives you a really nice flower shape, and these ones give you some really nice shapes, and I will show you how they look. And again, this is I think this came from a packet that I had paint in, but again it makes a nice stencil. So let me show you how some of these look, and I hope that inspires you to find some of your own supplies and see what you can create from them. Okay, so I've got a stamp pad and I'm gonna use some gesso and a flat brush. So some of these, and we'll start with this one, I guess. The other thing with this is that with some of these and the ones that you may have, you want to create some texture. So when we look at the cards that I eventually make, you'll see how I create texture, and that's putting on the gesso, or if you're going to use modelling paste, in a thicker layer, and you're able to then add a metallic rub on that after you've added paint. Okay, so let's just see what they look like. And as I say, you'll get access from you'll be able to access the video on making these cards on my course platform, and I'll leave all the details will be there for you. So I'm just getting some gesso on there. And I'm using a page that's just got some smears of paint. So when I had excess paint on my brush, I rubbed it off on here, and you can see it on there as well. That's how they start off. Okay, so we're gonna do this. So all I'm doing is tapping at the moment. If I add a reasonable amount on my brush, you get more on the page. And as I said, I wanted to have a little bit of texture, so I'm adding a bit more to the brush so that I can get that as I tap it, like so. So that's a really nice image that we can get from that. The other thing I can do is, so once you've finished, you've still got some on your brush, so I can go onto another page and rub it off on there. So you're adding to the page when you rub it off. Or what I can do is, there's still some paint, or I'm using gesso, and so what I do is take my brush and just rub it in a circular manner, and you get a nice kind of misty effect, and you also get slightly raised edges around the edge of the shape. Okay, so that's that shape. We've got this flower shape as well. and I just tap it. This had some paint on before. I was using black, so we're gonna have a grey looking flower, but that's fine. So you can see that there. Okay, so that's the second one. With the shapes that you can cut out, I can then join them together, and you could do a whole page, you can spray it. So it's nice to be able to look and see what you've got and use them in your journal. So here's the sequin waist. I usually take this and just go in a circular fashion on the page. Again, I was using black ink, so they've come up black. And the stars we've got here, you can either do it in a circular manner or tap it. And you can also do different stencils over each other. So I've got this, I could go in and, as I say, I've still got the black on the brush, and in a different colour go in and create layers with the stencils. And that's a nice effect, especially if you're thinking, you know, I would really love, I don't currently have, I used to have a jelly plate, it was one that I made, and but you want to create layers, and already I've got 3 layers. The paint, I've got the first layer of stencil, and now I've got this layer of stencil, and that's how you get to build up a page. So let's move on. I don't need to show you how you would stick the tissue on the page. Just experiment with that, and as I say, you know, you work in layers, and you can layer it over some of your stamped images, and you'll still be able to see the images underneath, depending on what layer. If you use a second layer, which will have a ghost image, you can then see what that image is. So we've got this that wraps around a cake, and we're just going to, I'm just going to rub off my brush on this page here. I want it to be dry, so I'm just rubbing it off and filling up this page, the page beside here, just filling it up with paint. Okay, so let me take a little bit on there, and I'll show you what this one looks like. So here we have a nice delicate swirly pattern. Actually, you can't really see that. Here you have a nice swirly pattern, and I can let me do it on this side. You'll be able to see. So I can tap it and it will come out, or I can swirl my brush around and you get it a lot fainter. So this one is one that I'd probably use at the end, but you can see the pattern that you get. Okay, let's move on. We've got the doily, and again it's a similar principle as the stencil. You just rub your brush through it and you get the pattern and that's also a nice pattern to use, again, especially if you're thinking, you know, I want to make marks and I'm not sure what kind of things to do. So let's just do a bit over here. And you have to be careful because it's thin paper, so it can tear. And then once this has got all the paint that you need on it, or you want, or that you've used it, you can use this as collage. Okay, so we've got a few more to go through. They're going to be the stamped images. This is similar in that, you know, it's a lid, or the inside of a lid, it held paints, and you would just take your brush and, or you would go round it, or you would use a spray, or maybe a different colour. See, I could maybe use a different colour and then just go around it like that. So think about some of the lids that you may have that you could potentially use. Okay, so let's move on. Actually, we've got one more stencil that we can try. We've got the flowers and the stars, and I'm thinking of using a different colour. Let me use this blue. It's one of my favourite colours, so we'll use that as a contrast. So again, I'm starting off with a semi-dry brush, and again, you could still continue to layer on the surface that you're working on. Again, whether it's your art journal or I like these stars. And as I say, it was very easy to, you know, you just cut them out, cut out as many as you want out, and you can then create your own stencil. Or I would definitely use a spray, but just to show you with the brush, we go around the outside edge, and then when we move it over, we've got the image of the star and the outside is blue. So that's the mask. Okay, so the next up is the tea light. So I cut the base out of the tea light, I embossed it with an embossing pen that you can get. They've got a very pointy edge, and you just create a image in that. I've done swirls. So let's get our ink pad and we'll ink it up, and we'll see what that looks like. And it can be any shape pattern that you want. So I've done swirls on this. I could have done lines, and then when you lift it up, you still, it's a very faintish pattern because I've used this several times now, so the pattern is kind of disappearing, it's being squashed. But as I say, I use tea lights every day. I light my oil burner and put some incense in there, scented candles, so I've always got a tea light that I can use in my project. So that's the tea light and working with that. What else we've got? I did mention the card, and as I said, you know, you put paint on or gesso and you rub it on the page and it dries really quickly. Okay, let's get to some of these stamps. So this one, as I said, it creates a really nice pattern. So I've stuck it to some foam board, and we're going to stamp that on the page as well. This page is becoming quite full, but it'll be nice with some strong patterns on there. So I just press it in and lift it up, and depending on how much ink you put on determines how much of a pattern that you'll see. So I'm going to put this one here. And I like these pages because I can then come back in, and whether I want to put a quote on or whether I want to create a face, like I can already see a faint image come in here. And then what I do with the rest of the ink is I just dab it on to another page in either the same journal or another journal. Okay, let's look at some of these that I've created. Again, these are from the sticky tabs that you get to put behind cards. Mine have lost all their stickiness, so I've added 2 to foam board, and I'm going to add the ink, and let's see what we get. And you just have to practice to see how heavy you have to press. Again, I would use these as if I were mark making, so it doesn't matter for me whether they're all fully inked. Again, it's not going to be like a perfect stamp, but it gives you marks on the page that you can then, you know, work with. So that's that one, and I'll show you this one as well, and the others work in the same way. So I've just applied them to foam board, and I've got 5 little tabs. These ones were the last 5 that I had, and it was just like I don't have a project for them, so let me just use them. And again, look at the marks they make, and even when they're faint, they make a nice mark. Let me just show you. Actually, let me show you this one. This is one I did again. So I got these in a hardware store, and I thought they were foam pads for, I could use them for, I create sculptures as well, so to protect underneath. And I just found a packet that I hadn't used, so I stuck them, and I thought, well, let me see what I can get, what kind of marks I can get with them. It's a bit much. Okay, I'm going to put it here at the top here. So just little dots, so it's just picking up the ink from the top. Let me move this over so you can maybe see it on here. So it's literally just giving me dots, but again, they're nice as, you know, to make marks, especially in different layers on your paper. And we'll do one more. So again, these were the smaller sized foam, sticky adhesive foam pads, and I've just stuck them randomly on this foam board, and let's see the pattern. So you get a nice pattern. I could just ink up half of them and do it on the corner like that. Again, using this as the one of the layers, and having fun with it. So, as you can see, these are all recycled. Some, their purpose extended. And some created and used very different from their initial purpose. And let me put them here so that you can get a really good look at them now. So they're all recycled and all have got a really nice purpose in my creative journey. They're things that when I think about these, I wasn't distraught, but I was upset that I didn't get to use them, that they'd lost their stickiness. I didn't realise that that would happen. And but now I'm able to give them new life. So as I said, what you want to do is to create a habit out of, the word is habit, so create a habit out of seeing your supplies in a different way, seeing the things that you have and making use of them, the things that you wouldn't normally think of. So look at everything that you have and say, can this make a pattern in my journal? Can I make an art supply? Like, I never knew that I could make an art supply from the bottom of a tea light, but I've made a stamp, yeah? Or making stamps from the unused pads that I would have used in cards. They're no good as sticky pads now, but they are good for creating stamps. So I hope that that's been useful. And again, as I was showing you for the cover for the cake case, how I've used it in this journal page and created, I just cut it, added some gold rub on and created a little crown, and you'll be able to see how I created not only this page, but you'll be able to see how I've used some of these supplies and created these cards that I will then, they're encouraging cards, they've got a nice quote on, and the supplies, I love the way that it all turned out, and you can see some of the elements in here, some of the pads as well that I used as stamps, this one along here, and then just around it, and you'll get to see how I created all of these. And I'm also going to be giving you some background papers, or you can use these as elements on your art journals, or whether you're doing the cards as well. So I hope that you have fun with it. It was fun making these. You can see all of them here. It was fun making them, and I hope you have fun using them. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing what you create. Take care for now.